Hello writers, come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Mykela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. If this is your first time joining me, then I'm very excited to have you here on my channel. If you've been with me from the beginning or somewhere along the journey, I am so glad you are returning. Today we are going to discuss a few terms or ideas, and then we will add to your story with a setting. Our terms today are cumulate, and culminate. Cumulate and culminate. They sound really close, don't they? Our first term, cumulate, means to gather or to pile in a heap or to combine into one or to build up by addition of new materials. So far, you might think that a sandbank in a river might cumulate as the river runs around the bend. You know, it just deposits that extra sand floating as it keeps going around. And that is one way. You might also think of the trash in your teenager's bedroom. Like, keep the door closed. I don't want to see it. So, of course, it doesn't have to be physical things. It can be ideas or technology. Some synonyms are accrue, amass, collect, garner, gather, hive, or hoard. Now, let's look at our next term, culminate. And it means to reach a climax or a point of highest development. It can be the climax or point of highest development of a book or story. Or it can even mean to reach the highest point or the summit or the highest development. You know, development would be more like technology or something, or plans coming together. You know, so are your plans culminating? Some synonyms are apex, like the peak, climax, peak, pinnacle, summit. While these synonyms mean the highest point, attained, or attainable, culminate suggests the outcome of a growth or development representing an attained objective. So it's a little bit more, so like if you were climbing a mountain and you reached the apex, whatever, that would be the apex itself. The top of the mountain would be an apex, but your endeavor to climb the mountain, to go through all that physical activity, would culminate with reaching that. And there's that kind of difference there. So you're striving to do something, you're obtaining an objective there when you reach that peak. Now, in our stories, our armies can cumulate just before the culmination or climax of the story. Now, armies can be for the protagonist or the antagonist. I mean, did you watch the last movie of The Lord of the Rings? And, you know, all the allies gathered their army in front of the mountain because they wanted to distract the whatever his name was. I don't remember at this point. They wanted to distract him from Frodo going and dropping the ring into the lava pit. So, but you saw all of the hordes behind the gate, and then the gate opened, and then all the allies had all of those hordes of creatures to fight. So both armies cumulated, and it was the culmination or the climax of the story at that point. But the back part was, of course, Frodo went in there to toss the ring in, and he met with this is not good. I can't think of the creature's name. that it's right there. Anyway, you know, the creature that originally found the ring, and he kind of got he kind of got deformed and stuff, but he wanted the ring back, and he called it my precious, my precious. So there was that fight there, and a lot of times movies do that. So you have the big fight out there, and then you have the two characters fighting and stuff like that. So you have these, you accumulate the everything, and it culminates into that interrelated climax. And I think The Lord of the Rings is a good example of that, of both of those terms. I will probably have to go back and rewatch that movie, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that was his name. Okay. You may not need, or you may not use these actual words in your stories or in the movie that you watch or whatever. These are certainly the ideas that we have. Our stories need to be interrelated, and they need to build or accumulate to a climax. That doesn't mean things accumulate quickly, like boom. But things should gradually build, or build gradually to get to the highest point, or that culmination. You don't want, oh, Frodo's going on a journey. Oh, let's gather the armies. Oh, let's go to fight. You need all of the stuff in the middle, you know, building the characters, and, you know, where Sam helped Frodo so much and going through it, and then all the people had helped Frodo to get to the Elven Kingdom, to keep hidden, and, you know, all of that, to build all the characters so that all of us had an emotional connection with those characters. So we were rooting for the good guys, and we were rooting for them to win the battle, and everything. So, you know, you need the middle. You can't just go start, end. So you need to build gradually to the highest point, or the culmination. Now, let's turn to our writings. Pull out your story with a setting. I don't know where you went with it, because we don't have a shared plot for this one. We're just going to pull it out and continue from wherever we left off. Now, for reference for you, we started this in season 3.1, episode 17, and then we continued in episode 31. Of course, all works shared on the channel are copyright protected, so there is no worry when you send in your writings and I read them to my viewers. So pause the video, write a scene or a page, or at least 500 words, or whatever goal you have for your daily writing, and come back and I'll read what I wrote. Welcome back, writers. Let me read what I wrote. After some time, Kahira went inside to check on George. He was in his office, and he had all the blinds closed and the drapes drawn. Kahira went to the first window. Why don't we open up some of these, and you'll feel better sooner? No, replied George. I need them closed. The sunlight was giving me a headache. Do you want soup or something? Kahira asked. No, replied George, and then he turned back to his computer and continued working. As Kahira was leaving, her cell phone rang, and it was the insurance. Kahira handed the phone to her husband so he could give his story, and he told him that the fog was very thick. He handed the phone back to Kahira, and she left the room. Kahira felt that something had happened to George in the woods. He wasn't acting normally, and he seemed very distant to her. But then she shrugged her shoulders to herself. She had her husband at home, and he was alive, so everything would work out. That night, in the middle of the night, Kahira woke in a thick sweat. Her heart was racing. Her hand went up to her throat as she felt her throat. She didn't normally have nightmares, but the dream had been strange. She heard some wolves howling outside, and her heart jumped. Then she noticed that her husband was not in bed with her. Kahira grabbed her cell phone and turned on the flashlight feature. She headed to the bathroom, but George was not there. She went to his office, and again, George was not there. Kahira heard the wolves howl again. Kahira went to the garage, and her car was still there, so George had to be around the house somewhere. She went back through the house room by room, and she could not find George. Then she went back to the back porch, and then she went to the back porch. She turned on the porch light before she went outside. She could see movement beyond her fence, but she couldn't make anything out. She felt her head to see if she had a concussion, and there was a bump. So, did that mean she imagined a wolf had spoken to her? Her heart beat hard in her chest as she walked down the porch steps towards the back fence. She still had her phone on flashlight mode. Once she reached the fence, she shone the light left and right. She was sure there were wolves out there, but she was not a wolf whisperer. She sighed and went back inside. She slipped back in bed, but she did not fall asleep for a long time. In the morning, Kahira had almost forgotten everything that had happened last night, until she didn't see George in bed. She thought maybe she should call the police and report him missing. But then she thought she should call her sister and confirm that George had picked her up. She headed to the kitchen to get some breakfast when she saw George asleep on the couch. Kahira went to George and asked him why he was on the couch. She wasn't sure she should go into him missing last night. George told her that he was having trouble sleeping and he didn't want to wake her, so he came here to sleep on the couch. He got up and headed to the bedroom as he told her he needed a little more sleep. Kahira fixed her breakfast as she thought through things, and then she decided to go for a walk after breakfast. She left George a note and headed out of the house. There was a park around the corner, so she headed there and found a bench to sit on. Kahira heard the birds chirping at first, but then they stopped. She looked around and saw a few wolves. That's when she remembered her nightmare. As she thought through the nightmare, she realized that being with the wolves probably inspired it, and she shouldn't worry on it any further. Kahira got up and walked back home. She told herself everything was fine. The night replayed everything for Kahira. She had a nightmare. She woke up. Her husband was gone. She walked out to the fence. The next morning, Kahira found her husband on their couch, and she told herself that this was their new normal, at least for now. After a week of it happening, Kahira drove herself to her sister's house instead of walking to the park. Since her sister's husband was at work, Kahira decided to divulge everything. She expected her sister to say something to the effect that she had probably hit her head too hard, or why wasn't she checking the couch the first thing? But Kahira had checked the couch starting the second night, and she had included that in her story. Instead, her sister got up and paced around a bit. When she stopped and looked at Kahira, she had fear in her eyes. "Okay, I'm taking you to the pawn shop." "What?" asked Kahira. "You trusted me with this, so trust me," stated Callista. Kahira sighed, and the two got in Callista's car and drove to the pawn shop. Okay, writers, that is where I'm going to leave it for today. I didn't add a lot. I had a little over 800 words. Not too much. And I do want to share with you my new bracelet. My mom and I met for lunch yesterday, and it's in celebration of my birthday, which will be Wednesday. I am actually filming today on March 3rd. My birthday is March 6th. So the bracelet is from my mother. And I thought it was very sweet of her to do that. I got a few other things too, like some calla lilies and stuff. So, It'll be my birthday in a few days, so happy birthday to me. And leave a comment on when your birthday is and what special thing you got for your last birthday. Okay, writers, like I said, this is where I'm going to leave it today. Leave a comment below on where your story is heading, or leave a comment on where you think mine is heading. I think it's fairly obvious, but I want to know what you think. I was also thinking as I was reading, it's like, you know, people don't know, my readers, my viewers, they don't know what George was like before this. So, although we started the story with the setting and it's followed from there, I might have to go back and put in something before the setting so that you see George in his normal. And I do that quite often. I get an idea for a story and I go with it, but then there needs to be something like the normal first before I dive into the story. So kind of slow the story down a little bit, because you don't want to jump in too fast. You want to build things up, and kind of do want people to like George a little bit before all of this. So I'll have to think about it. But leave a comment on where you think this story is going. I think it's obvious. I think it's maybe a little too obvious, and maybe I need to kind of tone it down a bit. But you let me know. Don't forget to visit my website, bymykela.com. Read some character bios, and send your writings and chapters to writewithmykela@gmail.com, and leave comments on your favorite characters. If you hit like and subscribe and the bell, then we will continue to write together, and other people will have a higher chance of finding this video and this channel. Since your likes push the video out to a greater audience, and it's up to you to do that. If you enjoy this, then I would appreciate you pushing the video out. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. This is Mykela with Write with Mykela. Bye for now.